This time I'm playing with the top leaderboard Grandmaster Master Gabe, and the link to his channel will be in the description. The competition consists of 6 games. You get 1 point by winning going first, 2 points by winning going second. The player who at the end has the most points, wins the competition. The first game is Brazil capital Conquest. And this is how our territory setup looked at the end. I knew that my opponent will probably try to go for the 6-troop continent called North, so my plan was to try counter-attacking it. This is how our troop placement looked with the reveal, and I think that was very fortunate for me that my opponent split half of his troops outside the North region, meaning that I could crush them, but with that it was unfortunate that I made the 2 smaller army splits. I started manual rolling his army, winning 2 troops, but then losing 2 as well, so then I just captured the continent of Seoul, and with my main army crushed his split army of losing even 8 troops fewer. So I think that was a really game changer, which gave my opponent very minimalistic chances to make a comeback. So I just captured the rest of the accessible continents to make him waste as many troops as possible, and with that he either wouldn't have enough troops to guard his secondary border of the 6-troop region or would leave his capital too weak. I invaded him into that 6-troop region, and then recaptured all of the accessible continents again, which my opponent invaded with a long of losing 3 versus 1 blitz roll plus 1 troop when capturing a territory of 1, and then I recaptured these continents back, which my opponent this time was able to invade them all without using his capital army. But with the 4th round coming, my opponent's capital was left with only 10 troops, and along with me trading an ace set at 3 cards, I obviously decided to take the 99% chance success blitz roll and won. The result after the first game becomes 1-0 with me being in the lead. The second game is Supermax Prison World Domination. This is how our setup looked at the end. And I decided to go for the hardest for me capturable but suitable continent, hoping that my opponent will either try to place his armies next to the easier for me to go continents, or tries to go for himself suitable continents in which I place some of armies of 2s. But with troops reveal I realized that the situation is really messed up for me. And honestly I didn't really know what to do, so I decided to just try blitzing my opponent's army, but only got the attacker's advantage of 1 troop, and with me putting some troops elsewhere I didn't really have enough of them to crush my opponent's secondary army unless taking the unfavorable 41% blitz roll, but I think I should have taken it anyway, though I could have obviously tried using manual rolls. Anyway, I fortified that army next to 1 for my opponent suitable to go continents, but obviously with that he just went for another him suitable to go for continent. And since I knew that he put 8 troops on his continent's border, I knew that it's very unlikely for me to invade it with the newly gotten 5 troops, so I just decided to capture 2 continents, expecting that with my opponent getting very unlucky he could potentially fail to invade one of them. But he managed to successfully invade them both, and with that the result becomes 1-2 with my opponent now being in the lead. The third game is Lunar mining facility caps. And this is how our territory setup looked at the end. I decided to go for this territory so I would be able to hold this continent with only 1 border to guard, while my opponent placed his army in this territory. In my turn I decided to capture a bunch of continents, but not wanting to do the 3-troop split I didn't capture that 1 territory, which gave my opponent the easy access to invade the 1 border continent. I didn't want to potentially leave my capital too weak, but honestly with me capturing a bunch of continents I doubt my opponent would have tried immediately blitzing my capital over trying to invade them. So in the second turn I was a bit smarter and fully captured that 1 border continent without leaving my opponent the access to invade it. And with my opponent in his first turn ending up blocking his capital, the game was basically won for me, so as long as I don't overexpand in the winning position. This map really favors the first player, and as the second player, blocking your capital's way towards your opponent's capital is a very big blunder, because with that you won't be able to use your capital's troops anymore in trying to crush your opponent's capital as the last chance. So as you can see, with my opponent seeing that he is completely losing, he tried doing the 9 versus 16 manual rolls, but with it being 0% chance wasn't really that much hopeful, and after 3 games it's a tie, 2-2. The fourth game is simple world caps. I went with the capital of Russia while my opponent went with the capital of mainland Europe. So we went for pretty standard for the second and first player capital places, and that's nothing really surprising here. I invaded my opponent here, getting the 3 troops advantage on his 4 troops army, and then lost the equal amount of troops when crushing his 6 troops army. For some reason I decided to go capturing North America and leaving 9 troops in South America, so my opponent got the 3 troops attackers advantage back with crushing that army. But then he took the 4 versus 2 blitz roll, which made him lose 2 troops. Here I decided to capture a bunch of territories, so if with my opponent recapturing a ton of them, I could potentially get a good blitz roll to crush his capital, though he got lucky to trade in a set at 3 cards. But being lucky as well, I've got lucky to trade in a set at 3 cards too, which led me of successfully invading him into Africa, getting the attacker's advantage of 2 troops along with leaving my capital strong. And then here we were capturing and recapturing territories and continents for multiple turns straight. Until I've got lucky to trade in the set here, getting a 100% victory chance. And with that the result becomes 4-2 with me now being in the lead. The 5th game is Castle Capital Conquest. And this is how our setup looked at the end. I decided to place my army into this place, while my opponent selected this territory for his capital spot. And in the first round we just both captured a bunch of each other territories. And in the second round my opponent was so sweet to let me hold that continent for an extra 2 troop bonus. So that gave me a bit of the advantage, especially when I just left my opponent's biggest army blocked, meaning that he could only use his newly gotten troops for capturing territories, so unless he would decide to blitz my capital, getting very successful. My mistake in this turn was to not bring him down to 11 territories, letting him receive 1 more continental troop bonus, but I was really concerned about my capital's safety. But honestly it led for my opponent receive 1 extra troop more than me in each of the upcoming turns, so that was quite a bit of a mistake for me. But after all maybe it wasn't, because when I finally brought him down to the 11 territories, he traded in a set at 3 cards and took the 59% chance blitz roll on my capital, which was unfortunate for him. I win, and after 5 games the result becomes 6-2 with me now dominating. The 6th game is Classic Caps. I decided to select my capital on Siam, while my opponent went with the capital of Ukraine. My opponent, if capturing 1 more territory, could have reduced my troop bonus by 1, but since he didn't, I received 1 extra troop. With my newly gotten troops I obviously invaded him into his continents. And then with my capital army I obviously captured Australia, so for a guaranteed 2 extra continental troop bonus each turn. In the second turn, with my opponent not bringing me to 11 territories or below, I received 1 extra troop, plus 2 extra continental troops from Australia. Also, to increase my territorial lead, I decided to capture 2 more territories with my capital. It made my opponent the way towards my capital, but it gave me more chance to keep sustaining my advantage, and with that my way towards his capital still wasn't blocked. And then in all of the upcoming turns I was trying to balance the capital's safety along with the territorial advantage, until in the 6th turn, trading in the set at 5 cards, I've got 100% chance to blitz my opponent's capital. I win, and the final result becomes 8-2 with me winning the series. Now for more 1v1 competitions click on the playlist on the right, and for more 1v1 strategy tips click on the playlist on the left.